Over the last couple of years, when it comes to junior mining investing, there's two sectors that have caught the hearts and minds of hopeful investors: lithium and uranium. We've covered lithium extensively on this channel, from Lithium Chile and the growing M&A transactions in Argentina to a major investment by Stellantis into a green explorer. We got Thacker Pass, the process of brine extraction, the market in Chile, and you kind of get the point. There are tons of explainers on the space on our channel, but uranium is a bit of a different animal. In fact, the one thing that comes to mind when I think of uranium is that any junior mining executive that I've talked to about their success in the markets inevitably harks back to the late 2000s, back to a time when uranium took off and they made bank. Many are waiting for that cycle to start again, and quite frankly, so am I. And it might just be starting. We've seen geopolitical events over the last few years shape a new environment for nuclear energy, which is the main driver of uranium demand. Countless sanctions against Russia, a key player in the industry, has not only tightened up uranium markets, but has driven Europe to refocus on nuclear energy as it grapples with reduced sources for natural gas and oil. And at the same time, the push for carbon-free energy in other major markets, such as Canada and the United States, has resulted in renewed optimism for nuclear. There's also the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, which has swallowed up over 62 million pounds of uranium from a market that currently demands around 100 million pounds per year. So we see supply pulled from an already tight uranium market into a mechanism that could go full GameStop on the U308 market. So as a result, we've got investors as bullish as ever, which is a fair assessment considering we're hitting multi-year highs. But what does this mean for those investors? Well, let's dive in. Okay, let's face it. When people think uranium, they think one of two things: nukes and nuclear energy. Despite the current geopolitical climate, and to avoid the FBI knocking on my door, I'm going to ignore the first one of those for the sake of wishful thinking, if nothing else. Nuclear energy arguably is currently experiencing what can only be described as a renaissance, following a period of global neglect after the Fukushima disaster in Japan 2011. That disaster, which was a result of an earthquake and resulting tsunami, resulted in sane policy being thrown out the window. Countries like Germany, Belgium, and Switzerland, who have a near zero risk of similar events unfolding due to their geography, immediately moved to close and phase out nuclear power generation. In Italy, a referendum resulted in 94% of the populace saying no to the construction of new plants. And in France, they stated that they would cut nuclear usage by a third, although it wasn't actually acted upon. Fast forward a decade, and the result of this poor policy is evident in any energy stat provided for Europe. Germany, where all nuclear reactors have been phased out, is grappling with some of the highest energy costs in all of the EU. Residential consumers currently pay 50 cents a kilowatt hour versus France, who pays around 27 cents a kilowatt hour, who ultimately decided to continue its reliance on nuclear energy. What's more, Germany is currently subsidizing energy costs for their citizens to the tune of 7.4% of its GDP, all to help German households grappling with high energy costs. This is equal to 41% of the total support provided across the EU. France is at half that figure at 3.7%. But all is not lost. Policy changes are being reversed in a big way. France recently approved a $52 billion nuclear investment plan, which will bring 6 new plants online. Germany, who saw its last nuclear power plants shut down earlier this year, saw 2/3 of Germans oppose the plan, with it quickly becoming a political hot potato in the country. New reactors, meanwhile, are under construction in Finland and Romania, and plans are underway in Sweden and Britain, among other countries, for new plants. Across the pond here in North America, the first American nuclear reactor to be built from scratch in decades opened in the state of Georgia, while a previously shuttered nuclear plant in Michigan is on track to be reopened. Up here in Canada, Quebec is also looking to restart production at a previously shuttered nuclear facility, while Ontario is conducting pre-development work at the world's largest operating nuclear power station to expand it even further. All this is to say that the demand for uranium will continue for decades, and that nuclear energy isn't going anywhere anytime soon. But that's enough about nuclear energy. Let's zero in on the uranium industry. Unlike lithium, which is seemingly everywhere, uranium is typically found in a few select localities. 4 countries to be exact: Kazakhstan, Canada, Namibia, and Australia, who all combine to account for 79% of the total 48,000 tons of uranium produced in 2022. Notably, uranium demand in that same year was 58,000 tons. Kazakhstan, which produced 43% of global supply last year, is largely a write-off for investors. Kazatomprom, the national operator in Kazakhstan, amounts to much of the production in the country, with Cameco having some exposure via joint venture, and French nuclear energy company Orano also having some joint ventures within Kazakhstan. Namibia, meanwhile, who typically accounts for somewhere in the range of 10% of global production annually, in recent years has seen China take over much of the production in the country. The largest mine in Namibia, the Rosine mine, in 2018 saw China acquire Rio Tinto's majority stake for around $107 million. The only other operating mine right now in Namibia is Husab, who saw China take a 90% stake back in 2012. The country, however, is open for business when compared to Kazakhstan, with the state operator Epangelo Mining willing to negotiate farm-in agreements to become joint venture partners on future development projects. As for the junior companies listed in Canada, we have Forces Metals, who's developing the Naraza project that has reserves of 90 million pounds of U3O8. And then we also have Uranium Energy, who has early stage claims that surround Forces' deposits. Uranium production in Australia is on a similar scale to that of Namibia. Production comes from 3 operating mines and amounts to 8% of global production in 2022. What sets Australia apart, however, is that it has the world's largest known uranium resources, accounting for roughly 1/3 of the global total. The Olympic Dam mine is the largest in operation in the country, producing both copper and uranium and operated by BP. Exploration for uranium is hot in Australia, with the ASX listing at least 49 names involved in uranium. And then there's Canada, my favorite uranium jurisdiction. Why, you might ask? Because it's predominantly found in the land of corner gas, and let's not forget about them lovable Saskatoon berries. Some say it's the heart of Canada, where real Canadians live, not those fake hosers found in the Toronto area. Okay, editor note, please remove that part. Jay Lutz from the Deep Dive wrote that. Of course, I'm talking about Saskatchewan, where we find the Athabasca Basin. The basin is the world's leading source of high-grade uranium, supplying up to 20% of the market globally. The area is also home to the Cigar Lake mine operated by Cameco, which boasts the highest grade uranium deposit in the world at 17.2% U3O8. For perspective, as per Kitco, the mine has grades that are 100 times the world average. Prior to Cigar Lake taking this crown, the McArthur River mine, also found in the basin and ran by Cameco, held this title. Outside of Cameco, several key players exist in the region. Orano, a part owner of Cigar Lake, McArthur River, and the Key Lake Mill, also owns the McLean Lake Uranium Mill. Denison Mines, meanwhile, is developing the Wheeler River project, while names such as Fission Uranium and NextGen Energy push further late-stage developments in the region. The Athabasca Basin is also a playground for more greenfield project developments, with countless explorers operating in the region. Atha Energy, for example, is the largest such explorer, with over 3.4 million acres of prospective land claims in the region. Outside of the basin, uranium is also found in Nunavut, Ontario, Quebec, and Labrador, although production does not occur in any of these jurisdictions. Uranium is a unique commodity when it comes to markets. After years of overproduction in the mid-20th century, the industry has gone through a prolonged period of stagnation as supply and demand have worked to equalize themselves. This is where the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust came in 2021, seemingly cleaning up the last of the cheaper uranium that was on the market. At the time of inception, uranium was priced at around $32 per pound, which has since more than doubled to around $72 per pound at the time of recording, following the fund sucking up the last of the cheapies. And with that in mind, the price of uranium has gone gangbusters in recent months, and no one knows where it's going to stop. That's part of the fun, but also part of the risk. With the metal heavily regulated, the average Joe can't exactly buy an ounce of a yellow cake like they can with gold or silver. Investors are resigned to either invest in SPUT directly or to gain exposure via the speculative names listed on the market. Whether this is a repeat of the 08-09 cycle that has become a sort of a legend among junior mining investors remains to be seen. And quite frankly, I don't know the answer. But you can be certain I'll be placing my bets in the off chance that we see a repeat of that exact cycle that captivated thousands of junior investors. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. If you could do me a big favor, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Let me know what you think in the comment section. So guys, we just recently launched this channel and we noticed that 99.9% of our viewers are not subscribed. So if you enjoyed this video, we need your help in growing this channel. By subscribing, that would help us keep the lights on and make sure that our crews have jobs in these uncertain times. So please hit that subscribe button, and we promise to make more quality videos that I'm sure you're going to love.